Hello, everybody. Back again, and I'm going to continue on with the reading of the Financial Matrix. Yesterday, we talked about data, about statistics of debt, the debt situation of households in the United States and Canada. And we touched a little bit on about how important it is to know what your data is, know what your personal data is when it comes to your own finances. So I'm just going to continue reading on. I left off yesterday at the choices on offense and defense. I had mentioned in closing that I was going to do a, if I could share my screen, do demonstration of how to set up a budget, but we're not kind of there yet. I just want to lay the groundwork first before we get there. And plus I want to be able to share my screen, and I don't know how to do that yet. So when I learn how to do that, then I'll share my screen and I'll bring up the spreadsheet that I've got. And by the way, if any of you want the spreadsheet, just message me in the comment section. I guess I could email it to you. And I'm going to be downloading it onto my website, www.healthyandwell.ca. I don't think I have it on there yet. I've got to go in and check. I haven't been in there for about a week. But I'll download it there as well, and I'll let you know when I've got it downloaded. And then you can just pull it up and use it. And once I have it there on that website, then I'll do a stream where we can go over how to use that. All right, so I'm just going to continue on here. The next section is called the Financial Matrix, Choices on Offense and Defense. Perhaps the best way to display how debt is damaging families is to graph each of the possible outcomes a person can experience financially based upon how she plays defense, which is reducing your expenses, and offense, which is increasing your income. The financial matrix is a 2x2 matrix that displays how the financial results, your ownership and choices, a person experiences are directly related to the choices he makes with respect to his income and expenses. True financial freedom, in other words, can only be accomplished by learning to play good financial defense and offense through understanding the rules of the financial matrix playing field. And just a side note here, the reason most people have a really hard time with their finances is they don't know what they're up against. They don't know what the rules are. And in the financial world, there's very well-defined rules. If you don't know what they are, then you're not going to win. So, where was that? Okay, so thankfully, anyone can learn the rules of the financial game and change his financial situation, just as Lori and I did. Unbelievably, the latest research reported on Economist.com reveals that 50% of Americans, the numbers across the developed world are similar, 50% of Americans have zero net worth, not even a penny. When debts are subtracted from assets, over 50% of Americans have no ownership, literally nothing to show for years of hard work. Wow. That's really startling, really. When your debts are subtracted from your assets, over 50% of Americans have no ownership, literally nothing to show for years of hard work. This quadrant displays people who do not play financial defense or offense and thus are broke, having no ownership and few choices. Most of these people live, as Henry David Thoreau once wrote, lives of quiet desperation, believing there is no escape from the financial matrix. So I'm not sure if you can see the screen here. I posted a picture of the quadrant, and it's similar to the Robert Kiyosaki, the quadrant that he uses as well. This is just kind of a more, I guess, a more simplistic view of his quadrant, and it kind of just brings it home a little bit more to people who aren't really financially astute. So if you can see the graph here, and I'm hoping you can, there's a defense, which is on the left-hand side, and are you playing defense? No is down on the bottom, and if you're not playing defense, you're broke. If you are playing defense, then you're probably a tightwad, and across the top is the offense. So when you put the two together, if you're not playing offense, but you are playing defense, defending the money you're making, but not bringing any more in, then you're probably living the tightwad life where you have to penny pinch everything. Okay, down at the bottom, that bottom one, the broke quadrant, that is, you're not playing defense. In other words, you're not defending the income you're making in, and you're not playing offense either. You have no plans or no way to bring in extra income. So you're probably that broke quadrant. And then, of course, over on the other side is the yes column of playing offense. So down at the bottom, so if you are playing offense, in other words, you're bringing in income, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you have a small business, you're bringing in extra income other than your 9-to-5 job kind of thing. You're doing that, but you're not really playing defense. You're not defending your income that you're coming in. You probably have lots of money, but you're blowing it. And so you have lots of status, maybe you have lots of debt, you have nice car, nice house, but all of your money is going out. You're not really tracking what you're spending. You're not really paying much attention to it. So yeah, that can get you in trouble too. It may seem good for a while, but the moment that there's any kind of an emergency, then you're going to be between a rock and a hard place. And then the top quadrant, and I'm really hoping you can see this picture. The top quadrant, if you're playing offense, in other words, you have a plan, you're bringing in extra income, and then as well, you're playing defense with the money that you are bringing in, then you're probably closer to being financially free and in good financial health. So I'll just continue here. So unbelievably, the latest research reported, I just read that. The second group in the bottom right quadrant, so what he was talking about here in that first part about people not having any net worth, that would be your broke and your tightwad on the left-hand side of this quadrant. And so on the bottom right, that's the status one. The second group in the bottom right quadrant, in contrast, has debt and little ownership, but does enjoy some of the finer things in life. This quadrant does take nice vacations and drive the nicer cars by accumulating debt. The appearance of financial success evidently is more important to them than actual success. In short, status through debt substitutes for true financial freedom. So debt, you have the appearance of being financially well, of having lots of money, but you don't actually. You're in debt. You don't actually have that financial stability that you need and that I mentioned. If you lose your job, then you've got all that debt, so you're going to end up in that broke quadrant, or if you're lucky, in the tightwad quadrant. All right, so anyway, this is a dangerous position to be in because debt and choices can fool people into thinking they are doing pretty well when actually they are one economic downturn from falling back into the first quadrant. Because they have debt above their actual incomes, they are vulnerable financially to any economic downturns. To be sure, most of the members of this group work hard, are upwardly mobile, and are hungry to learn. They fall into this quadrant the same way Lori and I did, mainly because they have not applied the proper defensive financial principles. Unfortunately, some people in this group are not teachable. Instead, they know it all, show it all, and owe it all. believing the ability to accrue debt makes them financial wizards. MSN.com reported that 80% of Americans have debt. Therefore, since 50% have zero net worth, no ownership or choices, this indicates that the remaining 30% still have choices because they have cash flow to borrow more, but have little true ownership. These people do not play good financial defense and instead accumulate debt to pretend they have freedom and lifestyles beyond what they can actually afford. They lease cars, live in highly mortgaged houses, and finance their vacations. While this plan may appear to work short term, it's like playing Russian roulette. For if the family suffers a lost job, lost health, or worst of all, a lost marriage, the debt-based house of cards comes crashing down. Sadly, this is more common than most people realize because life is unpredictable. For instance, just ask the auctioneers who sell off the goods of once seemingly prosperous families. They know how common it is. Even without an economic downturn, however, compound interest can still catch up to a person's ability to earn and drag him back into the poorhouse. This is why financial defense is so important because it's the best way to prepare for the inherent risk of living. This bridge, and by the way, I just wanted to mention, I have a friend that's an auctioneer, and he said a lot of the households or estates that he auctions off, he says you just wouldn't believe the junk that's accumulated. He said they looked, nice houses, they had nice car, but he said their houses were full of junk. And one of the things that I've noticed as well, just from my years of working in a bank, is that people who are heavily in debt, they can't really afford, once you get maxed out on your credit, the things that you own, or you're still paying a loan for it, but if you max yourself out, you can't afford to replace those things if they break. People who are heavily indebted may have the appearance on the outside of having seeming wealth, but the stuff they have deteriorates over time, and if you're maxed to the limit, how are you going to replace that? Your stuff just keeps getting crappier and crappier. So anyway, and yeah, I came across that quite a bit. Cars that were being repossessed, they were maxed out to the limit, couldn't pay the cars, lost a job, and the cars were in terrible shape. So, it was a sad thing working in the bank and seeing that. All right, so anyway, let me just get back here. This brings us to the top left position, one of the more secure quadrants, because these people have learned how to play financial defense. They have ownership, but do not have many choices since they have not learned how to increase their financial offense to live their dreams. Financial offense is more than just a person's income, but also a measure of the potential increase in income over the coming year. After all, if a person's income is flatlined, having little opportunity to increase the following year, then his offensive potential is non-existent. And just like a good football team, both defense and offense are necessary to win. So this quadrant has not learned how to play offense. So that would be the, okay, so we talked about the status. We're up in the tightwad quadrant now, I think he's talking about. This quadrant has not learned how to play offense. For example, as an engineer, I remember making $50,000 annual salary and receiving a 4% raise. Not much, but actually higher than the average American's raise. This indicates my offense as an engineer produced only $2,000 extra that year. This was a negligible raise, especially when one considers we were starting our family and Lori was leaving her job. Once inflation and taxes are factored in, this is not a raise at all, and I had to admit my offensive financial plan was anemic. I was not alone, however, for few people have very good offensive financial plans to increase their incomes by 10,000, 20,000, or even 50,000 extra over the next few years. In consequence, most financially disciplined people learn to live and this is in quotation marks, I cannot afford it type of lifestyle by living below their means and surrendering their dreams. So let me just read that again. I was not alone, however, for few people have good offensive financial plans to increase their incomes by 10, 20, or even 50,000 extra over the next few years. In consequence, most financially disciplined people learn to live an I cannot afford it lifestyle by living below their means and surrendering their dreams. So that's the tightwad quadrant. I mean, they've got an income, they're living below their means, they're watching their spending, but they have no way to increase their income. So it's always, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. We don't have the money for that. Well, something has to give, right? So that's the type of lifestyle that most people are living. It's a start. If you're not watching your spending, if you're not living below your means, then at least when you get there, it's a start and you're on a better track than the person who is broke or the person who's spending every dime they make. So to continue, indeed, this is why most people hate to talk about finances because they believe it's a depressing plan to surrender dreams by living within one's current income. Thankfully, there is a more palatable financial path. Whereas many other financial programs focus just on debt reduction, what makes a financial fitness and beyond financial fitness program so unique is their dual emphasis on financial defense and offense. Now, remember, I had told you that this book is written by Orrin Woodward and Chris Brady, and they own the Life Leadership Company. That it's what do they call it? They're a multi-level marketing company, I guess. I mainly just like their product, so I buy it for education. I don't really do that whole thing, but they have, if you want to earn extra money, they do have that kind of thing. So that's what he was referring to there. Anyway, don't just live within your means, but also increase the means to live so you can live the life you've always wanted. In this way, in this way, a person can still live his dreams and do so debt-free. So basically what he's saying is that you can find ways to increase your income so that you don't have to stifle your whole life. If your current job or your current profession, your current career is not going to provide you with enough income to live a life you really want to live and to be able to do the things you want to do, then there are other options. He's of course recommending the products that his company sells, which is fine. So anyway, but he does give other, as we go along here, he does give other ideas for increasing the income thing. All right, so let me just finish off this chapter and then we'll finish off for the day. So instead of just settling for the life you can afford on your present income, why not learn to play offense and defense to achieve what you truly want? This is the fourth and final quadrant of the financial matrix, one where people have both ownership and choices. This group has learned how to play both defense and offense of the financial systems to enjoy a lifestyle that less than 1% in the world can enjoy. These people live below their current means, but also invest heavily in themselves and others. So that's living below your current means, managing your money properly is your defense. But also investing in yourself and others is your offense. Through building an ongoing income stream, the offense, they free themselves from the typical time and money constraints to focus on people and purposes, not merely paychecks or profits. And actually, in a way, when you think about this, being on Big Bear's stream, that's exactly what he's doing. He's playing offense like big time. Um, and when he talks about the people who say must be nice, those people who say must be nice have coming from a financial background, it's those people that I can identify immediately that don't know how to manage their money. They probably, like Owen has said a couple of times, living in their mother's basement doing naughty things. Anyway, they probably don't have a clue about how to manage their money, how to defend the incomes they're earning, and how to go on the offense to earn more income so that they can get themselves in a financial position where they don't have to think in their minds that low level of must be nice, because they're striving to get into a place where they're financially secure. So when I hear people like that, I mean, he calls them gammas and that sort of thing, and yes, they are, but it's a low-minded way of thinking. They're not thinking outside the confines of what they've put themselves into. So, through building an ongoing income stream, the offense, they free themselves from the typical time and money constraints to focus on people and purposes, not merely paychecks or profits. When people decrease expenses and expand skills, their debt decreases while their incomes advance. Compounded over time, this leads to debt-free lifestyles, ownership of assets, and living the life they've always wanted. And I can't stress how important it is to start that way of thinking as early as possible. If you're a parent and you're just learning these principles now, it's really important to sit your kids down, like every week, sit them down and have a financial strategy session. Most kids in junior high or high school are earning some income somehow. They have part-time jobs. And it's really important to get them, sit them down, and do strategy planning with them financially, and to learn what this offense and defense of the financial system is, to learn how that applies to our individual lives. It's really, really important. So, and I mean, all young fellas in high school too, they want the fast car, right? How many of them, instead of the fast car, how many of them think it's important to own land, to be a landowner owner? How many of them would like to own 10 acres of land by the time they get out of high school? Like, the fast car, that thing is going to rust. It's going to be a rust bucket in not too many years, and it's going to be traded in for something else, and that process just continues on ad infinitum. But if you have land, you have that land. Your land doesn't go away, right? So those kind of strategies in helping not only your kids but yourself, getting those strategies ingrained in your thinking early, quickly, and work towards those goals. That's really important. So Owen goes on to say at the end of this chapter, imagine driving dream cars and paying cash. Imagine buying dream homes and paying cash, or taking dream vacations and again paying cash. Moreover, imagine the causes and charities that can be funded because you broke out of the financial matrix, the debt trap. Far-fetched? Impossible? A pipe dream? Turn the page and read how Lori and I moved through each of the quadrants on our way to financial freedom. We went from being absolutely broke in college to tightwads and fighting constantly about money after we were married, and finally succumbing to keeping up with the Joneses status game, the status quadrant, before our pregnancy woke us up. The rest is a series of trials and errors as we discovered the right recipe to help people move from the three suboptimal financial matrix quadrants to the financially free quadrant. This book isn't just about us, it's also about thousands of others who have chosen a similar path, playing defense and offense as taught in the financial fitness program, so that they can escape the financial matrix and live their lives debt-free. All right, so I'm going to end this one on that note. The next chapter is going to be Debt is Killing the American Dream. That's one thing too, when I was reading through this again, just in preparation for kind of doing these streams, one of the things that kept kind of coming up over and over again, and it came up like over and over again all the years that I worked in the bank as well, and I kept hearing the same theme repeat it. And it was that when you're in high school and you're thinking about your future, you have big dreams. You dream about what your life is going to be like or could be like, and you plan for it, and you go into debt to go to university, college, whatever. And you get out working, and when you first start working, you may be living at home with your parents, and you don't have many bills or expenses, and unless you've really planned your life, planned your financial life in such a way that you can realize your dreams, chances are good your dreams are not going to come true. Chances are you're not going to meet those goals that you set for yourself back when you were, all starry-eyed about your future. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Planning is important, and I really like this saying. I'd heard it years ago that if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, and it is so true. Like, that's me. I admit it. I for years was oblivious to this, even when I was working in the bank, because, like I said, you're not taught this stuff in school. You're taught to be money counters. You're taught to exchange coins, exchange labor, exchange everything for your life. You're just taught to be bean counters, basically, when you're working in the banks and if you're an accountant. And it's the odd person who sees the bigger picture and actually takes control so that they can live their dreams. So I'm going to end it here. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about the dream aspect of it and how important it is to get hold of your dreams again and to plan to make your dreams come true. And I am 62 years old right now, and I still have dreams. Actually, my dreams have gotten stronger now since I've found this whole way of thinking and changed my whole way of planning my financial future. And I mean, Lord willing, if I'm blessed with a long life, I'll achieve those dreams. But I'll never stop. It doesn't matter how long I live. I'm never going to stop working towards them. So, and that's the awesome thing too about being a Christian, is that you always have a hope in the future. You just don't give up on them. You just keep working towards them. All right, so that's all for today. I'm going to be back tomorrow. So peace out.